Blending is a skill in PDR that seems to mystify a lot of people. Today I hope I can simplify it. What we're looking at here is a very, very large dent that should never be blended. But I'm going to do it on a large scale, maybe just to give myself a little bit of credibility. This is the kind of dent that should absolutely just be glue pulled and tapped down, maybe blended to finish. Here it is in still photo. What inspired me to do this video is I was watching PDR tutorials and I found this. This gentleman did a fine job blending this, but he wouldn't give any information to Nutex. So basically I found a dent that was 3 times bigger than his, and I'm gonna walk you through it. When blending, your body and light position are very important. You want your face as close to the panel as possible on the same plane, and your light, your goal is eventually to have it as far back. That's gonna show you all of the waves and give you a better idea of what's going on. You can also see here that I rest my wrist on the panel. That gives me a little more control over my hammer. And accuracy and control is extremely important when you're trying to blend a large dent like this. So an analogy that I use to help new techs try to understand blending is that imagine your dent as a 30-foot deep pond. Your goal here is to make that pond a 30-foot deep ocean. So if it was a 30-foot deep pond, you're going to notice that change in grade drastically. It's going to go straight down, straight up. It's going to be real noticeable. If you're walking across a 30-foot deep ocean, continent to continent, you won't even notice a 30-foot raise in elevation or decrease in elevation. So that's what we're going for. To start any kind of blending of a dent, you're going to start at the outside edges and try to get it down to the deepest point of the dent. So on something very, very large like this, it's going to take a long time. You're not going to do it immediately. Something small, you can get that outside edge down to the same level as the middle of the dent fairly easily. From there, you're going to push and pull that metal either towards you or away from you to try to create that slow, gradual grade, again, the 30-foot ocean. So I drew a little quick pictorial for you here to hopefully help you visualize this. So our pond right now looks like this. This dent was actually deep enough to have some eyebrows on either side that need handled. So what we're going to do is we're going to start there by knocking down these eyebrows. First on this side, then on the other side. Tap, 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 tap. We're going to try to get it level with the top of the dent and the rest of the panel. Same thing on the other side. And then we're going to start tapping it down. Again, our goal is to reach the deepest part of the dent. So from there, we're going to blend it outwards. So it's going to be a real steady, gradual change. And if we manage to do this to both sides of the dent will not be visible to the eye. Now, a lot of old school technicians are going to say, well, you didn't fix that dent, you just made it really big. And you know what? They're correct. But if you can't see it, I feel like it's repaired. So a dent that's very sharp and noticeable, if we make it into that ocean, it becomes very wide and difficult to see. Yo man, I get it, this is an obnoxiously long video, but for the record, this took an obnoxious amount of time to fix, and I really need to reiterate that this kind of dent should never be blended. This is the kind of thing that you can fix in 5 minutes if you use a little bit of glue. Pull it up and knock down whatever's left. This is just more of a demonstration of what's possible to be blended. It makes no sense to do a dent this large, but this was actually a hammer review that I had done for the Dent Tools Freak page. If you watch closely during this video, that you'll notice that you can actually see the metal being moved outwards and towards me. You want to get to the point where you see every time your hammer strikes the panel, so you can keep a close eye on what's happening. When you first start blending even small dents, what you're going to notice is that your panel looks like a Ruffles potato chip. It's all wavy, you got high spots and low spots. That's no big deal, that's just part of the learning process. What you're going to do is you're going to connect the dots. So you're going to have those low spots surrounded by high spots. Just knock down the low spots, just knock down the high spots to the same level of low spots, and that's going to smooth out your texture. It takes quite a bit of practicing to get that accurate with your hammer, but believe me, it can be done. I started blending about 15 years ago. I was working at a Japanese manufacturing facility. The Japanese were blending quite a bit before it became in vogue here in the States. So I'm quite lucky in that regard. We got to learn their technique of blending. There's a couple schools of thought, but again, I only teach and I only try to show you what I know how to do well. Blending is definitely an applicable skill for all areas of PDR, but especially if you want to be a hail guy and you want to get on the hail trail. If you've got a rail covered in dime nickel-sized dents, it's going to be way quicker for you once you get good at it to blend those out as opposed to glue pull and knock down every single one. But if you are doing retail or wholesale, and let's say you're fixing a dent and you end up with a couple waves or a little shallow low that doesn't really want to come up or you can't reach, you can definitely blend those, and it makes your repair much quicker. And again, don't listen to people who say that blending is not fixing dents, because our goal is to make our customer's dent invisible to them. If the customer can't see the dent that was there, then that's a repaired dent. Now about in here, what I really want you to pay attention to is watching the metal move. As I'm knocking down with that sharper end there, the backside of my hammer, what I'm doing is I'm trying to get a little more accurate towards the middle of the dent. Again, because our goal is to get the edges to the same level as the very deepest part of the dent. And it takes so long for this process to happen, even sped up, it's hard to see progress. So what I did is, here's where we are, and I'm gonna show you where we started as well. So you see, there is progress. That's a much deeper dent than where we are now. So smaller dents aren't gonna take near this amount of time to blend. Usually on your first or second pass, you'll be able to get the center at the same level as the edges. This one, it probably took 50 or 60 passes to do that. But again, I'm just doing a very large dent, so you guys can see that I do in fact know what I'm talking about. So when you start blending, start extremely small and be extremely patient. If you start whacking those edges way too hard, you're gonna create a big mess for yourself. You'll spend a whole bunch of time glue pulling your mistakes, and you're gonna wish you hadn't. There's not a whole lot else to say, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get off of here for a little bit. I'm gonna let you watch it happen. So remember, just keep that 30-foot pond that you're trying to turn into a 30-foot ocean in mind. Pay attention to everywhere my hammer hits, and you'll actually start to see the metal move away from the center of that dent. Also, keep in mind that you want your light moved back as far as possible, and you'll see me move my light around a lot. Definitely, it's important to move your head and your light so you don't create deep ruts. That's another problem. I call them runners. And they're a real pain in the ass to fix. You'll have to work your dent straight up or straight down to fix them, and you really want to try to avoid that. So remember, move your light, check different angles a lot, and move your head as well. One thing that I haven't mentioned yet that I probably should have a long time ago is that your hits on the panel are going to be much harder towards the center of the dent, and they're going to ease up as you spread the dent out. So further away from you and closer to you that you go, they're going to get lighter and lighter and lighter, and that's all part of the fading the dent out. You may have noticed I'm cutting large sections of this video out now. If I don't, it's going to be a half-hour long video, and you probably get the point by now. Around about here, we're in the home stretch. You can see the dent's looking very shallow. We've moved a whole ton of metal by now. I think I might have mentioned before, this dent took an hour and a half, something like that. So again, nothing's changing. We're still focusing on getting the edges to the same level as the center. Coming up, I moved my light far enough back that you could not see the dent in the green light, so that white light is there to help you. And you can see we are almost done. So I scoured YouTube, and as of right now, this is the largest dent that anybody has videotaped themselves blending. But again, one more time, I need to reiterate, do not do this. It doesn't make any sense, just glue pull that thing. This view should give you an idea of how wide I blended this dent. Remember, it's only an inch or an inch and a half wide, and you can see how far my hammer moves. If you want to take your thumbs on either side of the screen, you'll see I probably blended this thing 2.5 feet or so. Because remember, that's got to be a very, very, very gradual change in elevation there, or else it's going to be obvious when you look at it. Some finishing touches just to handle a little bit of texture. I changed my hammer just because I'm trying to move large amounts of metal from the outside to make sure it's gradual enough. And here's our finished product. Everything looks good. There's a real minor low there. I probably could have chased that for a while, but honestly, when I take the light off of it, you're not going to be able to see it. So keep in mind, the biggest dent that you want to blend is probably about a dime, nickel size, quarter if you're pushing it. Nothing like this ever, unless you're just trying to show off and give yourself a little bit of credibility. And here's what we'll call the customer view. There's no light on this, just using some natural reflection. And you can see that thing is pretty dang clean. This is no wet sand, no buff, no glue pulling. There is a little wave when you cross check, but nothing to be concerned about. So I hope this taught you something. I hope that this demystifies blending a little bit. And if you have any suggestions for a next lesson, feel free to get a hold of me at denttoolsfreak@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to add it to the list. Make sure you go and like the Dent Tools Freak YouTube account as well. Subscribe. That's going to help me do these videos as well. So thanks again, like, subscribe, make sure you tell me what you want to learn next.